Happy Thanksgiving and welcome back to the Plus Money Podcast, your home for the best Premier League bets and soccer bets in 15 minutes or less. Let's not kid ourselves. We're here to talk about Manchester City as they travel to Liverpool. It's a doozy. Arne Slot's Liverpool, 8 points clear at the top of the table, and Pep Guardiola's Manchester City have dropped points in 6 straight games. First time ever for a Pep Guardiola team. I'm Andrew Passaro. Joining me this week, Martino Puccio. You can follow him at Martino Puccio. If you're watching on Instagram, it's right above him. Go follow him. Great follow for Italian football, for Milan specifically. You can follow his work, Milan Podcast. It's on YouTube. It's on all the platforms. Welcome back to the show. Had you on last year to talk some Champions League. Excited to finally get you back. Big win for Milan in the middle of the week with the Champions League. Christian Pulisic doing the thing, as our good friend Nick Diani says, an autoplay anytime he's a plus number for anytime goal scorer. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew. Been a long time coming for this reappearance on the show. Yeah, again, Diani, as usual. I think he also had a goal in the first half. So Diani sometimes is just a bizarre dude, but he's just the guy reminds me of like your mother on like Saturday morning, like looking through all the different coupons and shit that you could see. That's who Diani is when it comes to prop betting. So not surprised by that. He texted me immediately because I was very annoyed at how the game was going, and then he's just like, "Oh, Pulisic cash" right after we conceded. So it's just very on brand for him.
We'll be talking about his Lazio later in the show, so stick around for that. They play Thursday on Thanksgiving, big one in his household. But quickly into the Premier League, 2 games before we get to the big one. I want to talk about Brentford Leicester. We love that Brentford first half goal. The numbers are not there this week because they're taking on Leicester, but I do like Brentford and over 2.5 at plus 120 in this game. I like the first half over 1.5 once again, plus 134. And I like Brentford and both teams to score here at plus 185. Brentford are 6-2-0 on the 6-2-0 at home this season in the across all competitions. Leicester just one road in the Premier League and have only been shut out once in that stretch. I do think Leicester can get on the board in this one, but I expect the Bees to take care of business. They've been a very good home form team this season. And then quickly, Wolves, Bournemouth, over 3.5 goals, plus 154. The over 3.5 is hitting 7 of 14 Wolves games this season. They love a game with a lot of goals, but the player I want to talk about, I know you love your EPL player props, Mateus Cunha, plus 210 anytime goal scorer, plus 130 score or assist, 7 goals, 3 assists, and 11 starts for Wolves this season. He's been fantastic. Probably looking for that next move. Should be a fun one. Those fun ones on Saturday in the Premier League. But let's go to Liverpool, Manchester City. Um, Liverpool are a plus number at home, which is incredible. One home. Now we are taping this. I'm in a good mood because we were taping this pre-Liverpool Real Madrid. I wanted to tape after, and I think it's the right call that we are not doing that because I might be an emotional wreck. But Liverpool money line right now is plus 110. I've seen it as low as plus 105. I'm expecting if Liverpool do beat Real Madrid, that number two drop. But I think as long as you can get them above minus 120, it's a playable number. Their team total over 1.5 is just beyond playable for me. It's minus 136. But Liverpool have scored 2 goals in a majority of their games this season. I think they've only been shut out once, which the game against Nottingham Forest. Liverpool and both teams to score is plus 230. I like that a lot. Manchester City don't get shut out a lot. I know they got shut out against Tottenham. Last one for me, player prop parlay, Holland and Salah both to have 3 shots is plus 169. Not on target, just shots.
Shots,
Salah has
okay.
only missed that in 3 starts for Liverpool, and Holland only missed it on the opening day of the season for City. He hit that in every other
I
game.
mean, honestly, with the two favorites for the top scorer in the league, I think that's a good parlay number there too. Because again, as you mentioned, shots are totally different. Like the way you get props for Darwin Núñez, shots are totally different way they're priced with shots on target. We all know why when we watch him, but I think that's great value there. Even if the number is like not massive, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, only plus 169. It's like, hey man, it's 2 legs. And you're talking about two of the most prolific goal scorers in the Premier League just getting 3 shots off in a match in which, let's face it, you mentioned City have dropped points 6 straight matches, the first in a Pep Guardiola team, and to go on the road where they risk this gap being significant. Where if Liverpool were to win this one, you're really talking about you don't want to say it's insurmountable, but it really starts to become a much deeper hole for City to dig themselves out of. And when it comes to that, you're sort of like, okay, are they going to be exposed? How often are they going to be exposed? Because Liverpool are a great counterattacking team. I'd argue they're probably the best in Europe right now. So that's a really bad matchup for City. And I think morale stuff, obviously, we're taping prior to Liverpool playing against Real Madrid, but City blew a 3-0 lead against Feyenoord. Like that's on top of
At
the 4
home,
0.
at the Etihad.
It's this is like bad. This is the worst City team I think we have seen since Pep has taken over. And it's sort of like that sort of shock reaction to them where people can get into this ideology of betting like, okay, the typical gambler's fallacy of like, okay, there's no way this continues to happen, right? Like City are going to have to eventually bounce back, and that's sort of the way people will bet on them. And hand up there, I did that against Spurs, where I was like, okay, no way, like City losing this one, or you're not expecting a 4-0 goal margin. Pep seems like he's pressing a little bit in sort of these press conferences. And so to get to where I'm at with these bets, is should I just go into some of the stuff?
Go into it.
I think you just have to take Liverpool. Um, just straight up like money line. The plus 110 is still a fair number on the road for City. I mean, even both teams to score, or like even if you want to go over 1.5, over 2.5, parlayed with Liverpool. I like doing like 2 leg parlays with this sort of stuff. I really like your shout for yours as well. City making a lot of defensive errors. How Mo Salah's priced at plus 130, even Holland himself plus 120. I think you could go to any of those goal scorers. Again, I think it depends on where you're at and where you live for goal or assist for some of these players. Again, if you can get Luis Diaz for this, even Salah as well, I think you have to just look at some of the prices. Sometimes I do take some juicy ones. I'll go up to minus 145. But if it's a team that's struggling mightily defensively, you're sort of like, okay, that's worth the risk. Unfortunately, they're not priced right now. I would imagine that's because Liverpool have not played Real Madrid. But yeah, just in general, man, I think for me, it's just about Liverpool here. And by the way, just even if you're not talking about singular game stuff, this again is another window in which you should probably bet Liverpool to win the league if you are interested in that sort of bet. Because again, I think the gap would go to 11 points after this.
Yeah,
So
they'd go 11 points clear. I was looking at the price point earlier this season. I would actually say the counter argument of that. Liverpool are like plus 105, plus 110, I think plus 120 to win the league right now.
yeah,
If you think City are going to win this game, now is the time to invest in City to win the league
yes.
because you're getting them like plus 225, plus 250 range. I don't even know what it's moved to after the disaster against Feyenoord. I don't think they can come back with the amount of injuries that they've accumulated over the course
Yes.
of this season. But if you're a City fan or you're a City believer, now is the time to invest in that.
Well, yeah, because okay, so FanDuel has them priced at plus 340. Liverpool's coming in at minus 140 for this is for the league, obviously.
Yeah,
So
that's moved.
yeah, I mean, listen, I want to take Arsenal, just a separate conversation. I think they're just clearly not enough firepower to do it. Um, City, I think you're right. This is the time for it, right? Because the swing is 5 or 11, depending on if a team actually wins. I think it'll be funny because City will drop 7 straight matches, but a draw would arguably be good for them in this. I think
Yeah.
with Liverpool, you have to stomp on their throats because, as we know, regardless of Rodri's injury, you never want to leave Manchester City with a shred of daylight. And I think that's truly important. So for me, I think they're going to come in prep. This is the biggest match. It's funny that you could argue the biggest match of Arne Slot's early tenure at Liverpool is this match, but he's also playing Real Madrid this week. But yeah, man, I think again, if you're all in on Liverpool, now's the time. You got to go. We're talking futures here, this match in particular, and then Mo Salah there. So again, I think now is the time for that. As far as City goes, do you like the plus 220 on the money line? I know it's your podcast. I'm switching up what questions asked, but like
No,
people do this where they're like City plus 220,
it's an
regardless of the opponent.
incredible number. It's an incredible number. If I wouldn't play that, I'd play the draw no bet line. That's the
Sure,
way
I
I'd
agree.
I'd see it because I see this. I don't see City winning this game. It'd have to be some sort of crazy referee decision, or um like a absolutely catastrophic run of injuries for Liverpool between this game that's upcoming and this game that's going to in the middle of the match for City, I think to win it outright. I think the best City could hope for in this situation is a draw.
Yeah.
Because my question is, outside of Holland, who's getting the goal for them? Because
I
they're
mean,
playing with
Where's Phil Foden been?
Phil Foden's in.
Is a real question
Yeah.
because he was awesome last year. Um, you could again, like there was Cole Palmer and other players that were doing well, and obviously Foden rightfully getting that Player of the Year honor. He had the biggest moments and the biggest of games. When you're watching Foden this year, it's really not the same player. Who knows if it's about City's depth? Julian Alvarez, obviously they've had some very unfortunate injuries for themselves. I'm not even talking about Rodri, talking like Oscar Bob and other players. So for me, I think you're right. Like what you keep going through the list of players. De Bruyne at his age and his injury history, that's someone I don't even bother looking at anymore. Just like it's really strange. And again, you're right. Like you're looking down this list. I think in terms of players to score or assist, I see it on FanDuel actually. So Salah's minus 115, so that's a great number. Holland's plus 100. Not really kind
Getting
of
getting
taking that.
Holland at a plus number anytime goal scorer, I do feel
No,
like is
that's
one of
score
those
or
you
assist.
have. Okay, yeah, score or assist, but getting Holland anytime goal scorer at a
He's
plus
still
number is.
plus 140 on FanDuel as opposed to 120 on DraftKings. So
I think you kind of play that. I do think City get on the score sheet. I really do.
I they have to. So that's where I understand where you're coming from because obviously City risk a lot with going down 11. So that's kind of like the question is not of like how well they're playing. Like like for example, City go up early 1-0. How do they play? How do they approach that? Is it are we still gonna go keep our
I
foot
think they
on the
have to push
gas?
for. They just gave up 3 goals in 15 minutes at home to Feyenoord. They have to push. You know what I mean? I think even if City go up, they're not.
Then
They
it's
don't have
sort
the
of
capability to
like
defend.
then do
And
you
Kovacic
oh,
is out. No Rodri. You're gonna be playing Gundogan at the base of that midfield.
and he's older too.
He's
It's not like
34. He's
he's not spring
34.
chicken. He's not spring chicken going from La Liga to where they're at physically as a league to where the Prem is. It's a totally different level, totally different drop off. Arrived late in the transfer window as well because Barcelona, I don't even know how they're staying afloat, whatever. It's just all of those things are just really fascinating to me. I do really like the Luis Diaz stuff. Luis Diaz for a score or assist is at plus 145. I think that's just a really solid number too. I think he's been
You gotta be careful with him because he gets rotated with Gakpo fairly
yes.
regularly.
That's like all predicated on lineups. I try I try and preface that quite often. Do I naturally get myself caught? But some sports books, like worst case, say you do choose a player for that, like Luis Diaz in this situation, has happened to me like twice already this season, where I anticipated him starting. They voided the bet at the very least because he did not start. So sometimes you get fortunate with that. You have to check your sports book because at times they'll be like, oh, he's on the squad sheet. If he could get subbed on, we're counting that bet as
So
potentially
I
eligible. So they're
cashed out
not
a
going.
Pulisic last week. I gave out Pulisic score or assist at plus 165 against Juve, and then he didn't start, and I ran to FanDuel to cash out early. So, and
So there you go.
I got my stake back. Let's speaking of Pulisic, let's jump to Italy here.
Mm,
I got a couple quick games that we're going to talk about. I will save Lazio for second. I want to hit Torino, Napoli real quick.
mm.
Napoli have the advantage of playing one match a week. They're traveling to Torino. They're minus 130 on the money line. If that's not good enough for you on its own, it's good enough for me. It's a solid parlay piece.
Yes.
And their team total over 1.5 is plus 110. I do like that. Torino have given up that total in 7 of 15 in all comps. Napoli have hit that in 7 of 15 in all comps. Probably should have done it last weekend against Roma. Roma also probably should have scored on them. But I think Napoli are going to get this done. They have been taking points off the teams they should take points off and not losing to the big teams. Conte knows how to do that in Italy.
Totally agree on it being a part of a parlay piece. Sometimes I do love to dabble in NBA prices as well for certain because there's a lot of bad teams in the NBA as well. I know we're drifting off sports, but again, if you have like a strong favorite, like dude, I'll literally take a favorite that's like minus 400 on the money line, parlay it with like a team like Napoli, for example, that's under that minus 150 price that I'm really a fan of, and just parlay it together. Or I do like player combo props. But yeah, I think that's where Napoli is sort of at right now. The goal scorer props too are really insane. You're looking at like the cheapest prices. Lukaku's plus 180 for an anytime goal scorer. Like that's yeah, exactly. See your eyes light up like that. And we're not talking about a team that's rotating. I believe there might be a Coppa Italia coming up. But again, you're talking about Conte once a week in Serie A. It's also why they're arguably the best bet in Serie A to win the title. And again, like it's just insane to me because the second price, highest priced player here is Simeone coming in. These markets are always all over the place with these props because we know that they really just put attacking players first and everyone else kind of falls behind. So Scott McTominay isn't even a bad shout. He's plus 360. These types of players that Conte loves to use on every single occasion. And he's one of those players that's thriving. For me, Napoli should win this one. I think it's just another place to move forward with them. And again, Zapata was Torino's main threat for this coming season. He is obviously out. So again, you're looking at Napoli here, like where have they shown that they don't kind of deserve the trust at this point? They're only going to keep getting better with the way Conte is and sort of his teams. They sometimes start off slow, especially with the way Napoli were last year. So again, I think they're great as a parlay piece. Lukaku at plus 180 is really hard to say no to with the way he's been playing. So yeah, again, for me, this is just Napoli all the way, and I'd be very stunned. And again, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even call you crazy if you went under 1.5 goals in this game too. But again, Torino at home, that's sort of where the logic lies in because their Serie A clubs are so annoying and they will do anything not to lose a game. So that means very low scoring matches, and this could be one of those.
All right, Parma take on Lazio. Lazio have been incredible. Kind of the surprise of the season. I mean, them and Napoli, the surprise of the season so far. I've been riding their money line a lot of late, and I feel like I'm just playing the hits here. I gave them out last week at the same price they were at home. They've won all but one home game. They drew the other one, so they're unbeaten at home, but they're on the road to Parma. But Parma are I don't know. I'm not they're not a side that I'm overly impressed with what I've seen. Lazio minus 120 on the money line is a really good price for them.
Hmm.
Their team total over 1.5, which they've done, I think, 13 of 17 games this season prior to Thursday's Europa League game is minus 138. Again, like I would parlay that team total into something else you like because I do think Lazio scored twice and Lazio and over 2.5 in the game is plus 165. But the money line minus 120 is solid enough for me.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money line. Anywhere you can go to look for like both teams to score as well. I think this is one of those matches. Lazio have been they have respectable defenders, but it's priced at minus 180 on DraftKings. It's but there's
Gets you to
also
a good
both teams.
parlay. It's a good parlay if you take Lazio on both teams to score then, because I could very well see Parma
And
getting
you
on the
said that
score
you got
sheet.
that for minus or plus 135 or
Plus 165 is Lazio and
okay.
over 2.5 in the game on its own. That's not even with both
Hmm.
teams to score. So you're going to
So, well,
get a
both
good
teams to
number.
score and no draws plus 125 if you want to feel safer. Parma have stepped up and played well against the bigger sides in Serie A. So you have to sort of give them that respect at home, I would say. But I think you're still spot on in terms of just like Lazio is just one of the. It's funny because when Lazio are good and progressing very well, like they finished second a couple years ago, which was highly unexpected. When Lazio are on fire, that's one of those clubs that you just actually keep betting until the wheels fall off. So for me, both teams to score no draw could be a very safe one. Could be a 2-1 Lazio win. Serie A is crazy like that. So road games sometimes you just have to be a little bit more simple with it. I don't see a draw happening. I'll put it
Yeah,
that way. I'd be
I like that a
surprised with
lot.
a 2-2.
And that gives you cover both ways, especially if Lazio just wake up and it's the wrong day. You know what I mean? Like it's just
That's
not their day of
and
fluid. It's
and
a huge
I
cover.
I speak from a paranoia perspective with that like comment. That's not like so much like, oh, this is how it's gonna go. It's sort of like, I don't know. I've been cold, so I just go with the safe route like that.
All right, we'll close. Quick one to close the show. It's the big one in Germany. Dortmund are plus 340 on the money line. They've won all eight of their home games. Their road form is atrocious. Their draw no bet is plus 240. Their double chance is plus 115. Um, I lean Dortmund in this one. I think Bayern are a very good side. I'm just not buying what Vincent Company is selling as them as an elite side just yet. All the pieces are there. They're going to win the Bundesliga. I'm not worried about that. But I
Mm.
think that Dortmund can win this game, and they're in a fight to maintain top four relevance in the Bundesliga. I think this is an important game for them. It's always an important game for them. Other things to just reference, I'm going to take the double chance, and I think the draw no bet. Um, but for Dortmund, but one of the last 10 of these matches went under 3.5 goals, and eight of the last 10 of
Insane.
these games went both teams to score. So like historically, this is a game with a ton of goals. So do with that information what you will. If you want to stick over 2.5 goals in a parlay with some college football on Saturday or some some NBA or NFL, I think it's like a really solid piece. This most previous game last season did end in a 2-0 Dortmund win, which is the game that went under. But like the rest of them have been 4 goals at a minimum. And usually, I didn't even look at the price point. Usually, over 3.5 goals is like minus 115, minus 120. And it's like, I hate that for the value for the amount of goals that you need. But we've gotten it a lot in these games.
Yeah. Total numbers, I think that's just always good to like mess around with, like 3.5, 4.5, even like push your luck with that sort of stuff. Again, Harry Kane, just again, because we're going back to props, like Harry Kane minus 150 for me isn't worth the anytime score stuff. I would just probably lean towards a brace for him if you want to do something like that. Again, goal scorer props, where goal or assist happen. Olise and Musiala have been my guys in Bundesliga. Again, I know that's not like, oh wow, like great, like two of the young top players in the world, but that's the reality of betting with Bayern, in my opinion, when you go with props, because Harry Kane, a lot of the time, you're either it's only worth betting the brace or the hat trick. Same applies for Erling Haaland.
Yep.
Those are the two players I would say. Look, Lewandowski to an extent, but he's still not the same what he used to be. But these are those players that I usually look towards and say like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Ultimately, Musiala or Elise with goal or assist are usually priced very fairly. I never see them more than minus 145, which is something I'm very comfortable with. And again, I think it depends on your book. If you can get one of those guys and then just parlay with like both teams to score, it really same game parlay is very per book. So
Yep.
it's
Yeah,
I
100%.
I love the same game parlays that they allow you to have on FanDuel, but DraftKings like I get very aggravated with what they don't allow me to do because
Yeah.
I'm just like, why can't I take over 1.5 in a game and also pick anytime goal score or something like that? Like there's a bunch of stupid combos that I'm not allowed to do that would be like, okay, you don't want my action, I guess I'll go elsewhere. But that's just me complaining. Yeah, I mean, you could also go exact scores of games. I do
Yeah.
that sometimes.
I
Like
like the
Bayern 3 to
bands.
2 is like plus 1200, I think.
I like the bands sometimes where it's
Yes.
like team to win 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. Sometimes I can't find them in the sports book, but they are there.
Yes. Yes.
Those are
Yes.
also great. Um, Let me jump to the both teams to score parlay, but one last player prop in Germany just to shout it out. Marmouche, my guy, my second favorite Egyptian player, plus 140 anytime goal scorer against Heidenheim, who are just one spot out of the relegation zone in the Bundesliga. So, not a very good team, and Marmouche very good at scoring. But my both teams to score parlay, we are going back to England, Brentford, Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, and Dortmund, Bayern, plus 227. It's a Saturday, both teams to score parlay. Let's have some fun before we get into our big college football on Saturday. I love closing with both teams to score parlay. It's easy to explain to anybody.
I mean, I was shocked it got in the plus 200. So
Yeah, I thought I was gonna have to add another leg to get it, but
I wonder what the team, the weakest link and all that.
I think
My
it's
mind immediately goes to Wolves.
it is. But the Wolves have been one of the most consistently both teams to score teams in the Premier League this season.
Both
If
teams to score in the Prem in general has been insane.
Yeah,
There was one week where I think I was talking to Nick Diani about this, where every single team had. or sorry, every single game had both teams scoring it. And it might have been Spurs were the ones who didn't end up doing it. I forget the week exactly, but
It'd be a very
we
Tottenham thing to
because
do. We don't.
Diani was doing his thing of like, oh look, I have 7 games of over 1.5, and do you want do you want to take this? I'm like, no, dude, I'm good, but like I'm wishing you luck. So,
I'll do
um,
that. I'll do that in the opening weeks of like the League Cup and the Carabao Cup in England. I'll just like literally bet the whole board over 1.5 goals. It like barely gets to plus 200 and
yeah,
it's like a 9 leg
the
parlay. It's like this
antithesis of
is
Serie
dumb.
A. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. Good luck with that. That's a good number. I'm not gonna take it just out of like jinx purposes, but I
I appreciate you.
I approve. I
Um,
approve your choice.
Well, go follow Martino. Like I said, his handle is right above you if you're on YouTube, but at Martino Puccio. You can follow me at Angel Passaro. You can follow the podcast at the Plus Money Pod. We'll be back next week. More big games to look forward to. I think we're approaching a Merseyside derby, which I always hate. But go follow Martino. Have a great Thanksgiving. And let's win some money this weekend. See ya.